Hi everyone, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from the Dice Tower. Thanks for joining us.
Today we'll be teaching you how to play Pins Beetles, game designed by Troy Caban and Q Chai, and published by Light & Games. We are using a prototype copy here of the game, and so the rules and components may not be final.
Let's get to it.
In Pins Beetles, players are budding beetle enthusiasts competing against each other to form the best collection of beetles that they can. It's a fast-paced game of set collection, as players work to collect large groups of beetles in their hands for photo features, and then cash those sets in to make exhibits in the museum. Whoever earns the most points from features and exhibits by the time the museum board is full will win the game. The end of setup will look like this. In the center of the table, you'll have the museum board, which includes all of the action spaces around the outer side. There is one meeple called the entomologist meeple who begins on the entomology exhibit space. All of the rest of the cards are laid out near their relevant actions. The large cards with the Pins and Beetles back are the beetle cards. They'll be shuffled into a face-down stack, and then 3 will be drawn face-up near the expeditions. The remaining large cards, which show the same image on each side, are the photo feature cards, and these are all laid face-out near the photo feature action. Keep these square bonus cards nearby to this action as well. Near the entomology exhibit action, group all of the exhibit cards by colour and then lay them out face up. Each of these cards is double-sided, showing a different shape on each side, and you should choose the side randomly during setup. Once chosen, the cards will remain on these sides for the rest of the game. It doesn't matter which order you stack the cards in, all 3 are always available to all players. The coloured bonus tiles that say ×2 on them are also kept near this action. Keep all of the various multicoloured beetle tiles off to the side ready for use. Now deal each player 1 beetle card, which is held face down in hand. Choose a first player and you're now ready to play. Pins and Beetles is played in turns, starting from the first player and going clockwise around the table. On your turn, you take 1 action, and you must choose from the 7 action spaces around the game board. You will always move this shared entomologist meeple to the action space that you've chosen. You can choose not to move the meeple in order to take the same action that the player who preceded you took, but if you do this, you must discard 4 beetle cards from your collection. This is quite a high price, but there are specific times during the game where you might want to do this to take advantage of a perfectly timed action. The 7 action spaces can be broken up into 2 main types. Trade, research, and the 3 expedition spaces are all about gaining beetle cards into your collection. Photo feature and entomology exhibit are all about gaining these cards by using your beetle cards, and these are the cards which grant you points at the end of the game. First, we'll look at gaining cards. When players gain cards, they will be added either face up or face down to the player's collection. Whether cards are face up or face down has no impact on the player's ability to use them. The only difference between the two is that the other players know what the face up cards are. There is no limit to the size of a player's collection. Neither the face-up nor the face-down components have a limit. Once any beetle card has been revealed, or flipped face-up for any reason, it will remain in that state for the rest of the game. That is, players' face-down cards will sometimes become face-up, but their face-up cards will never become face-down. There are 3 different ways to gain beetles. The first and simplest is to take the research action. Simply draw 2 beetles face down off the top of the deck and add them to your face down collection. The second way is to go on an expedition. There will always be 3 beetle cards face up in the expedition area, and each beetle card shows you the region or regions where that beetle can be found in the world. Each expedition action space relates to 2 of the world's 6 regions, and when you take an action, you get to take all of the beetle cards that correspond to one of the 2 regions on that action space. So here, for example, with North and South America, I would be able to take these 2 beetles. These are added to your collection face up, and the expedition area is replenished to 3 from the top of the deck. The third way to gain beetles is to trade. First, draw 1 beetle card from the deck, adding it to your collection face down, and then you may offer and make as many trades of beetle cards with other players as you wish. You may come to whatever sorts of deals you wish. The only real restrictions are that cards remain face down or face up based on what they were before the trade, and the active player is the only one who is allowed to make these trade offers during the turn. If the draw deck ever runs out, then shuffle the discard pile of beetle cards to form a new draw deck. In the rare scenario where there is neither a draw deck nor discard pile, all players must immediately choose 5 cards from their collections to return to the discard pile, which will then be shuffled into the new deck. Now we'll have a look at how to turn the beetles in your collection into points, and there are 2 ways. The first is by taking the photo feature action and claiming one of the 12 feature cards. To claim a card from the display, you must at least meet the minimum criteria printed on the card based on all of the cards in your collection. Here, for example, it's 5 or more green beetle cards, and there's also a matching icon showing in the bottom left of each card. Take the card and reveal the required number of cards face up if not already. The card is worth 5 points for 5 matching beetles. If your set exceeds 5, then take one of these bonus cards and flip it to the appropriate number, sliding it underneath. Here, for example, I've got a set of 6, and so my card is worth 5 plus 1 is 6. 8 of the feature cards simply relate to different colours of beetles, and do note that there are rainbow coloured wild beetles in the deck. These are not wild for the purpose of this action. You cannot use these to complete these features. 2 of the feature cards are based on the beetle's size. Every beetle card shows its size on the left, and if it specifically says large or small in the top corner, then they count towards these features. The other 2 features work a little bit differently. Biodiversity is completed by having a set of 8 beetles, each in a different colour, and again, not including any rainbows. Around the World is completed with a set of 6 beetles, which represent every location on the Earth. This must be a set of 6 beetles. A beetle like this with multiple locations only counts for one of those locations. These 2 features are strictly worth 5 points. They do not get boosted to match the number of cards in the set. With the exception of these 2 special features which can't be bonus upgraded, once a player has taken one of these, it's not necessarily the end for that card. A player with a feature could, as a later action, reveal more cards and add them to the set in order to increase the number of points on the feature. Or a player could take the action to steal a photo feature card from an opponent if the player taking the action has a strictly larger collection than the number currently represented by that feature. For example, this card is currently worth 5 points. This player has an orange collection of 7 and could use the action to take that card and level up its points. Since these are photographs and the beetles aren't consumed taking the action, you can use the same beetle to contribute to multiple sets. The final action is Entomology Exhibit, and this is where you'll be cashing in your beetle cards to place beetles into the museum. First, claim any one of the face-up cards out of these collections. Based on the number of the card, discard matching coloured cards from your face-up or face-down collection. This time you can use rainbow cards to make up the numbers, unlike the photo feature action. This doesn't impact any photo features you've collected, as long as you legally claimed this when your collection was large enough. It stays with you, and an opponent would still need 6 green beetles to steal this card. Now take beetle tiles of the matching colour and arrange them in that shape somewhere on the museum board. The shape can be rotated but cannot be flipped. Normally, your first placement of a given colour will overlap one of these ×2 bonus spaces. And if you do, take the matching coloured ×2 token and place it onto that card. This doubles its points, here from 4 to 8. There are several other rules when making placements. A new colour may be placed anywhere on the grid, but a colour which has previously been placed must be placed so that at least one tile is orthogonally adjacent to that colour's tiles that are already on the board. So this or this would be legal, but this would not be. Each colour is only allowed to occupy one of these ×2 spaces, so this would not be a legal placement for green, as it would occupy 2. Finally, when placing a shape, it is allowable for one tile, but no more than one of those tiles, to be stacked on top of one existing tile on the board. This means that you can make a stack of tiles on the board up to a maximum height of 2. The exception is the 8 bonus spaces you're not allowed to stack on those spaces. So for example, this would be a legal placement for that shape. It's adjacent to blue, it overlaps only this tile, and it goes up to a height of 2. Similarly, you could make a placement like this. It overlaps with its own colour, but this still counts as being adjacent to its own colour, and there's a single stack now of 2 tiles. Illegal placements would include this, which overlaps more than one tile, this, which overlaps a bonus space, or this, which would create a stack of 3. What this means is that over time, certain shapes will become impossible to place. Here, for example, most placements of this shape overlap more than one other tile. This would be the only placement which doesn't, but it overlaps one of the bonus spaces, also illegal. If there is no legal space to play a card, then you're not allowed to take it, and in fact you can simply remove it from the game entirely. This introduces the key balance of the game. You'll be trying to build up big sets of cards in your collection, so they'll score a lot of points and can't be stolen. But you'll also want to discard those cards early enough in the game that your colour doesn't get boxed in on the museum board. If you can best strike this balance, then you'll score the most points from both types of cards. The game ends immediately once there are no longer any shapes remaining in the exhibit display which can be legally placed. And once again, you can be keeping track of this through the game by discarding cards once they become impossible to complete. Now count up your final score. Each player gets 5 points for each feature card, plus any bonuses which were added, and gets 3, 4 or 5 points for each exhibit card, doubled if the doubling token was gained. Here it's 5 plus 7 plus 5 plus 8 plus 6, 4, 10 and 3, a total of 48. The player with the highest score wins. If tied, whoever has the most total beetle cards, face up or face down in collection, breaks the tie, and if still tied, players share the win. And that's how to play Pins and Beetles.
Check out the project page of Pins and Beetles. We'll put the link in the description below so you can check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Everything you do will help us. Every single view, every time you like the video, let us know if you have any questions and comments, and see you in our next videos.